Page 1. Stoic Meditations for Every Morning. What if just one small decision this morning could shape your entire day? What if ancient Stoic wisdom still had the power to guide your mind before your first cup of coffee? And what if 5 quiet minutes, grounded in purpose, gave you the strength to meet anything today brings? Morning is sacred ground. Before the world wakes up, before the scroll begins, before the traffic starts and the pressure returns, there's silence. And in that silence, you have a choice. Who are you going to be today? Will you let the world shape you, or will you shape yourself? The Stoics didn't start their day chasing comfort or control. They started with character. Each morning, they returned to their principles, not as a performance, but as a compass. Marcus Aurelius, ruler of the Roman Empire, wrote to himself, not to his people, but to his soul, reminding himself to stay calm, to expect frustration, to return to what mattered. Because every day starts with a question. What kind of person will I be? Let go of guilt. Rise with intention. So maybe you hit snooze this morning. Maybe your plan didn't go as expected. But guilt doesn't serve you, intention does. The Stoic doesn't scold themselves for being human. They reflect. They ask, was that rest avoidance or renewal? Was I seeking comfort, or did I truly need pause? There is no shame in slowing down, only awareness. The path begins again each morning, no matter how yesterday ended. So instead of spiraling into guilt, pause, thank your body for resting. Now, begin. Every act of restraint is a victory. The world screams, more, faster, louder. But the Stoic nose piece is built in the pause. You want to react. Snap back at that message. Rush to prove yourself. But you stop. You breathe. You ask, what is my goal here? That is restraint, not weakness, but strength. Discipline isn't just a morning routine. It's the decision to choose clarity over chaos, even when emotions rise. Every time you pause, hold back, choose silence over reaction, you are building something. That something is your character. A daily ritual, not a daily performance. The Stoic life isn't found in dramatic gestures. It's found in quiet routines done with purpose. Morning, you wake, you sit. You ask one question. What virtue do I want to live today? Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's patience. You write that word in your journal. You carry it like a compass. Midday, life gets busy. Emails pile up. People frustrate you. Delays drain your energy. Pause. Return to your compass. Ask again, am I living the virtue I chose this morning? This isn't about getting it perfect. It's about getting it back on track. Evening, you reflect. No judgment, just clarity. Where did I live with courage? Where did I fall short? You don't scold yourself. You study yourself. And tomorrow, you begin again. That's not weakness. That's discipline. The quiet power of the present moment. People imagine transformation as lightning bolt, sudden and dramatic. But the Stoics knew it's the soft drumbeat of repetition. It's in the moment you want to quit but stay. The moment you want to speak but wait. The moment you want to scroll but breathe instead. That's where strength is built. That's where self-respect lives. So if your morning feels small, if your life feels ordinary, remember, greatness is quiet. Words from Marcus to start the day. Marcus Aurelius every morning wrote truths like these. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That's not fear, that's freedom. It means don't waste your minutes on pettiness. Don't lose your peace to people who don't matter. Ask, if this were my last day, would I choose this reaction? Would I choose this argument? Would I choose to rush or to breathe? The morning is a mirror. How you begin your day is how you begin your story. If you start with noise, you'll carry it. If you start with stillness, you'll reflect it. The Stoic knows they can't control the world, but they can control the opening act. And that first act, the first 5 minutes, can set the tone for all the rest. So light a candle, take a breath, open a page, be quiet, be real, be here, because this moment right now is where transformation lives. This is how the Stoic day begins quietly, inwardly, with clarity. But what happens when life stops being quiet? When emotions rise and fear grips the heart and everything feels out of control? In page 2, we'll step into the storms and explore how the Stoics met chaos, not with panic, but with practiced calm. Let's walk into the fire together. Page 2, Stoic Meditations for Every Morning. Yesterday, we explored how the Stoic morning begins with silence, with intention, with that first breath before the noise begins. But now, what happens when the world interrupts that peace? What happens when a hard moment hits before breakfast? This is where Stoicism meets reality. This is where virtue must live not just in thought, but in action. So today, we step deeper. We examine the emotional tests we all face, and how the Stoics trained not to run from them, but to breathe through them. When fear arrives before coffee, you check your phone. There's an angry message. You feel the heat rising, the tension behind your eyes. Your chest tightens. Do you lash out? Do you replay it in your head all day? Or do you pause? The Stoics teach, in that pause lives your freedom. Fear is natural, but response is optional. And in that space between stimulus and reaction lies your power. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." So stop naming the fear, call it out. Am I afraid of being misunderstood? Of losing control? Of not being enough? Fear thrives in silence. Truth starves it. Say the fear. Then say, even this I can endure. Because you can, you already have. Turning conflict into practice. The Stoic doesn't seek out drama, but they don't fear it either. They know every disagreement is a test, a moment to strengthen the inner fortress. You're interrupted at work. You're misquoted in a meeting. Someone twists your words. You feel the fire rise, but you don't become it. You ask, what would courage look like right now? Would it be silence? Would it be steady truth? Would it be a calm boundary, firm but fair? Courage isn't just for the battlefield. It's for the boardroom, the kitchen table, the mirror. Remember, the goal isn't to win the argument. It's to win your integrity back. When emotions spill over, there are days when calm feels far away. You feel pulled in every direction. Tired, frustrated, stretched too thin. That's not failure. That's being human. But even here, the Stoic asks, can I sit with this feeling without being consumed by it? Marcus Aurelius wrote, external things are not the problem. It's your assessment of them. So assess wisely. Your inbox is not an emergency. Their bad mood is not your burden. Your schedule is full, but you are not empty. Return to your breath. Return to your virtue. Return to the truth that this moment, just like the last one, will pass. Small moments build strong character. People think greatness is made in grand decisions, but the Stoics knew it's made in small ones. Do you hold the door when no one thanks you? Do you finish the task no one sees? Do you listen fully when it'd be easier to zone out? These tiny acts, done with virtue, shape your soul. They shape the kind of person you become when no one is watching. So don't underestimate the power of a patient word, or a deep breath, or a choice to be better quietly. Morning reflection, a tool for stability. So how do we stay grounded when the world keeps spinning? With morning reflection, with pre-decisions, with mental rehearsal. The Stoic wakes and asks, what challenge might I face today? Who might test my patience? Where might I be tempted to betray my own standard? Then they prepare, not with fear, but with clarity. Because when you rehearse for life's storms, they don't knock you off center. You expected them. You trained for them. And that training becomes your strength. Now that we've seen how morning reflection sets the tone, and how the Stoic responds to pressure, let's go deeper into fear itself. Not just reacting to fear, but understanding it, reframing it, transforming it into a teacher. Because when fear is faced, not fled from, it becomes fuel. In page 3, we walk straight into it. Ready? Page 3. Stoicism under pressure. Where fear meets action. Fear, the hidden trainer. Fear doesn't always look like screaming or panic. Sometimes it whispers, hides behind hesitation, lurks in overthinking. It's in the pause before you speak up, in the hand that hovers before you hit send. It's in the urge to say yes when you mean no, just to avoid conflict. But here's the Stoic truth. Fear is not the enemy. It's the signal. It tells you where the work is. Marcus Aurelius faced wars, plagues, betrayal, but he didn't run. From fear, he walked into it with eyes wide open. So we ask, what am I truly afraid of today? Is it failure, rejection, loss? And what if, just what if, that fear was a doorway? The courage to choose anyway. Seneca said, sometimes even, to live is an act of courage. So imagine this. You feel anxious, but you show up anyway. You doubt yourself, but you speak anyway. You fear the outcome, but you take the step anyway. That's courage. Not absence of fear, but action beside it. It's sending the resume after 5 rejections. It's saying, I was wrong when pride protests. It's being vulnerable in a world that rewards masks. Every courageous act becomes proof that fear doesn't control you. And day by day, that proof becomes power. When life hits harder than expected, sometimes fear is more than discomfort. It's full-blown crisis, betrayal, illness, loss. You wake up, and nothing is the same. The ground feels unstable. The mind races. This is the fire the Stoics trained for, not comfort, but resilience. Epictetus, born into slavery, beaten, silenced. Yet he wrote of freedom, inner freedom, because no one could take his response. And that's your anchor too. You may not control what happened, but you still control what happens next. That power, however small, is sacred, building a virtue compass. In chaos, when life falls apart, what guides you? Stoicism offers a map. Wisdom. What do I actually control right now? Courage. What would bravery look like, even in small ways? Justice. How can I stay fair, even when I'm hurting? Temperance. Can I be patient with my emotions? These aren't lofty ideals. They're survival tools. Use them. Return to them. Let them steady you when everything else feels wild. When the world triggers old wounds. Not all fear comes from now. Some of it is old. Buried memories, beliefs inherited, pain unspoken. The Stoic doesn't ignore this. They turn toward it with tenderness and truth. Where is this reaction really coming from? What story am I still carrying? Is it still serving me? This isn't therapy. It's philosophy lived deeply. Because when you face fear's roots, you stop it from growing new branches that daily rebuild. Every day is a new chance to rebuild courage. One act, one decision, one deep breath at a time. The Stoic way isn't flashy. It's consistent. Show up scared, but steady. Speak the truth, even when it trembles. Pause. When you want to react, these are your reps. This is your training. And the more you practice, especially in pressure, the less power fear holds. Now that we've walked into fear and reclaimed our footing, let's talk about what happens next when fear becomes fuel, when hardship becomes habit, when Stoicism doesn't just help you survive the day, but shapes how you live it. On page 4, we explore how the quiet, everyday moments become sacred ground for virtue. Ready to make the mundane meaningful? Let's continue. Page 4. Sacred Simplicity. Stoicism in Everyday Moments. The hidden power of the mundane. Virtue isn't forged in grand arenas. It's shaped in silence, in the unnoticed, in the pause before a reaction. Stoics knew this. They didn't wait for crisis to reveal character. They looked to the ordinary, to the hallway, the grocery line, the dinner table. Because if you can stay grounded there, you can stay grounded anywhere. Wisdom in the little decisions. Comment online pokes at your ego. Do you reply? You're interrupted mid-task. Do you snap? You see something unjust. Do you scroll past? Wisdom whispers. Pause. Ask, is this worthy of my energy? Am I acting or reacting? Wisdom is silent power. It steps back before it steps in. It doesn't need to win the argument. It seeks to understand the moment. Courage in the unseen acts. Not all courage roars. Some of it whispers through small, defiant acts, like choosing to rest. When guilt tells you to hustle, like being honest. When no one's watching, like setting a boundary. When your voice shakes, each moment is a micro. Rebellion against fear. Each choice becomes a layer of strength. Seneca said, bravery is not a lack of fear, but a will stronger than it. And that will, you build it. In the quiet moments. Justice in how you move through the world. You're late. Someone cuts in line. You've had a long day. The waiter gets the order wrong. Do you lash out or lean into grace? Justice isn't about grand trials. It's about how you treat the next person you meet. Do you see them as human? Do you hold the door as an act of dignity? Do you speak truth, even when it's awkward? These are the real tests. This is where virtue breathes. Temperance in a world that pushes more. The world says, buy more, scroll more, speak more, want more. But the Stoic asks, what if enough was already here? Temperance is choosing presence over pressure. It's stepping away from excess, not because you have to, but because you want clarity. Say no to one more notification. Say yes to quiet. Eat to nourish. Not escape. Speak less, but mean it more. Temperance isn't restraint for punishment. It's space for peace. Rituals for the everyday philosopher. Morning. Ask, what virtue do I need today? Wisdom? Courage? Justice? Temperance? Set the tone, not for perfection, but presence. Midday. Breathe. Check in. Remind yourself. It's okay to pause. Evening. Reflect. Where did I act with integrity? Where did I miss the mark? What would tomorrow's version of me thank me for? These aren't chores, they're rituals. Anchors, daily reminders that who you're becoming is shaped by what you're choosing. Now that we've found meaning in the mundane, let's move into the deeper waters. What happens when emotion surges? When heartbreak, anger, or anxiety threaten to knock us off center? On page 5, we explore Stoic emotional mastery. How to feel deeply without being ruled completely. Ready to meet emotion with clarity? Let's continue. Page 5. Feeling without falling. Emotional mastery the Stoic way. Emotions are natural, but not the navigator. The Stoics never denied emotion. They didn't suppress it. They studied it. They asked, is this helping or hijacking me? Because emotions are waves. You don't need to drown in them. You can learn to surf anger, the fire that burns both ways. Anger feels powerful like armor, but often it's just fear with a louder voice. A Stoic sees anger not as something to obey, but to investigate. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." So instead of snapping back, breathe. Ask, what would calm do here? Because real power is restraint. Grief, the cost of loving deeply. Loss will come. The Stoics didn't hide from it, they prepared for it. Epictetus taught that everything we love is on loan. It makes the present more precious, not less. Grief is not weakness, it's proof of connection. But even in sorrow, we can choose how we carry it. With grace, with memory, with presence. Anxiety, the mind racing ahead. What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? What if everything falls apart? The Stoic returns to one question. What can I control right now? Not tomorrow, not the past, just this moment. Breathe, move. Speak only to what is real, not imagined. Seneca said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Let your breath be your anchor. Let your focus be your peace. The Stoic way isn't numbness, it's clarity. You can feel joy and stay humble. You can feel fear and still act with courage. You can be broken and still walk with dignity. The goal isn't to avoid emotion. It's to understand it, to use it as data, not as destiny. Each emotion is a signal, not a sentence. A flare, not a fate. Practices for emotional clarity. When overwhelmed, write it out. Turn chaos into clarity. When angry, wait before speaking. Ask if it's true, helpful, necessary. When grieving, share memories. Feel it fully, but don't lose yourself in it. When anxious, name what's real, release what isn't. Your emotional life is part of your landscape. It just doesn't need to be the driver. Reclaiming emotional authority. There's wisdom in watching, not just feeling. There's courage in staying open, without being ruled. Justice in not projecting your pain onto others. Temperance in letting emotions speak, but not dictate. This is emotional mastery. This is how the Stoic feels deeply but stands firmly. Now that we've embraced feeling without falling, let's turn inward to the daily habits that sustain it. On page 6, we explore how the Stoics trained their inner world. Through journaling, mental rehearsal, reflection. Let's dive deeper into the daily practices that make resilience real. Page 6. The practice of peace. Stoic habits for a grounded life. Peace isn't found, it's built. Peace isn't something that happens to you. It's something you train for, daily, intentionally. The Stoics didn't wait for crisis to shape them. They shaped themselves before the storm. Morning, the mind's first moment. Before the world pulls you in. Before the phone lights up. Start like Marcus Aurelius did. Sit. Breathe. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to be today? What virtues will be tested? Where can I show up with clarity instead of chaos? This is your mental warm-up. It sets the tone not just for your actions, but your mindset. Journaling, a mirror for the mind. The Stoics didn't just think they wrote. Marcus wrote in meditations. Seneca wrote letters to himself and others. Why? Because writing slows the mind. It turns emotion into insight. Try this. What did I handle well today? Where did I fall short? What can I learn for tomorrow? This is reflection without shame. Honesty without judgment. Growth in motion. Voluntary discomfort. Train before the test. Seneca practiced hardship on purpose. He wore rough clothes. Ate simple food. Lived without luxury for days. At a time. Why? So he'd remember. His peace wasn't tied to comfort. Try small discomforts. Skip a luxury you usually indulge. Walk instead of drive. Embrace silence instead of noise. It builds temperance and reveals how strong you already are. Mental rehearsal. Expect the unexpected. Every Stoic asked, what's likely to test me today? Not to invite negativity, but to prepare, to move from reaction to readiness. So when the delay comes, when the criticism stings, when the craving hits, you're not surprised. You're grounded. Rehearsal builds resilience because you've already met the moment mentally. Tiny acts of virtue, invisible strength. Stoicism isn't practiced in speeches. It's practiced when no one's watching. Holding the door when no one says thanks. Saying no to gossip. Returning the cart. At the grocery store. Small acts, big character. Virtue isn't about being noticed. It's about being true. Daily Stoic prompts to anchor you. Try these journal starters. What is mine to control today? What would courage look like right now? Where can I practice stillness instead of stimulation? Who can I support without? Needing recognition? This isn't philosophy. It's soul training. Stillness in motion. The modern world rushes. The Stoic pauses. You can walk slowly while others sprint. You can speak calmly while others shout. Stillness isn't about sitting still. It's about staying anchored inside. Rituals build identity. Each habit is a brick. Each reflection is mortar. You are building you. And the peace you seek? It's not out there. It's in the rhythm of your daily choices. Identity through practice. You become what you repeat. The person who asks for nothing needs little. The one who prepares each morning worries less. The one who reflects at night grows faster. This is the Stoic blueprint, and it's available daily. Now that we've explored the quiet power of Stoic habits, it's time to bring those virtues into the world. Page 7 will take us into the arena. How do we live stoically, not just in solitude, but in leadership, in conflict, in community? Let's step forward rooted and ready. Page 7. Living stoically. Virtue as a lifestyle. What does it look like to live stoicism? Not in theory, but in footsteps. Not in quotes, but in choices. To live stoically is to be guided not by trends, but by timeless truths. It's not about being perfect. It's about being principled. When plans fall apart, temperance responds. The flight's delayed. The meeting's canceled. The day unravels. A Stoic doesn't spiral or snap. They pause. They ask, is this within my control? And if it's not, they let it go with grace. That's temperance, not suppression, but sovereignty. When your wrong justice leads, a friend betrays you, a rumor spreads, you're misjudged in silence. What now? The easy thing is revenge, the expected thing is anger. But the Stoic? The Stoic stays upright. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, so you rise." Not because it's easy, but because it's right. That's justice in motion. When your tempted discipline speaks, you want to skip the workout, binge the series. Say yes when your soul says no. But Stoicism reminds you, every indulgence has a cost. Temperance whispers, what do I really need? And often the answer is less noise, less excess, more clarity. When you hold power wisdom guides, you're the boss now, the parent, the teacher, the leader. You could command, demand, dominate, but instead you serve, because Stoic leadership isn't about ego. It's about example. You speak with calm, you lead with patience, you listen more than you lecture. That's wisdom not as intellect, but as action. Small decisions, big character. You return the cart. You reply kindly even when annoyed. You speak truthfully even when silence is easier. These are the invisible choices, the ones no one claps for, but they shape you every time. The Stoic doesn't wait for applause. They live for alignment, building identity through repetition. You don't decide who you are once. You build it daily. Each time you respond with virtue. Each time you choose restraint over reaction. Each time you reflect before rushing. You're laying bricks, stacking habits, forming the fortress. Not to keep the world out, but to keep yourself steady within it. Stoicism isn't cold, it's centered. It's not emotionless. It's emotionally intelligent. You still feel, you still care, but you are not tossed by every wave. You are rooted. You are responsive, not reactive. That is the Stoic life. True strength is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't perform. It just is. It's found in those who don't flinch when tested, who don't need praise to act rightly, who don't sway when the crowd shouts, because their compass isn't external, it's internal. That's virtue lived. You walk the Stoic path one step at a time, not in dramatic leaps, but in consistent motion. A little more patience today. A little more honesty tomorrow. A little more courage in that hard conversation. It all adds up, because you're not chasing perfection. You're choosing presence. So we've seen what Stoicism looks like lived out loud. But how do we apply it in our fast-moving, hyper-connected world? On page 8, we bring Stoic virtue into your inboxes, your relationships, your routines. Let's take ancient wisdom and make it modern. Page 8, integrating the 4 virtues into modern life. From philosophy to practice daily Stoicism begins now. You've walked through the virtues. You've reflected, resisted, and risen. Now comes the real work, living them moment by moment in a noisy world. Because Stoicism doesn't belong just in books. It belongs in inboxes, in traffic, in tough conversations. Let's make it real. Let's bring the 4 virtues into your everyday. Wisdom in the wild. Wisdom isn't knowing everything. It's knowing what matters. In modern life, it looks like this. You pause before sending that heated email. You listen fully in a meeting without needing to speak first. You say, "I'm not sure yet, but I'll find out." Wisdom chooses questions over assumptions, clarity over ego, growth over being right. Ask in difficult moments, what would a wise person do here? Then do that. Courage in the everyday. Courage isn't shouting, it's showing up. You step into a hard conversation. You ask for help when pride says, stay quiet. You take the leap, start the project, apologize, try again. In a world obsessed with comfort, courage is rebellion. It doesn't wait for the fear to vanish. It moves with it anyway, because authenticity is always the braver path. Justice in small moments. Justice isn't reserved for courts. It begins at the coffee shop. You keep your promises. You credit others when it's earned. You stand up for someone who has no voice. Justice is seen in how you treat the stranger, the teammate, the customer. It's how you act when it's inconvenient. It's how you serve when no one's looking. Because fairness isn't what you preach, it's what you practice. Temperance in a world of more. We live in excess. More food, more noise, more scroll. Temperance is your sacred no. It's when you close the laptop because rest is resistance. It's when you savor rather than stuff. Temperance walks away from indulgence and walks toward intention. It's restraint, not repression. It's choosing clarity over chaos. Ask yourself in the moment, does this feed my peace or my impulse? Choose peace. A Stoic day. Ancient values in modern life. Here's how it looks today. You wake up. Before checking your phone, you set an intention. Today, I'll practice wisdom. You speak less, you observe more. You take that lunch break, not to escape, but to reset. You're tempted later to avoid that tough talk. But you, remember courage. You show up anyway. Evening falls. You could spiral, scroll, or numb. Instead, you breathe. You choose stillness. You journal. You show up for a friend despite your schedule. Because justice reminds you, presence matters. That's a Stoic day. Not perfect, but powerful. The power of integration. When the virtues are practiced daily, they become you. They stop being ideals and start being identity. You don't have to try so hard. You simply are grounded, clear, true. Because when the world speeds up, your soul slows down. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. You become what you rehearse. The more you choose the virtues, the more they shape your instincts. In time, you don't just act with courage, you are courageous. You don't just respond with clarity, you live with it. Because character isn't born, it's built. Page 9. The final reflection. Now that the virtues are alive in your modern world, let's zoom out one final time. On page 9, we'll reflect on why these ancient truths still matter more than ever. Not just for history's sake, but for the soul's strength. Let's finish strong together. Page 9, the final reflection. Why virtue still matters. The world is loud, virtue is quiet. Here we are, at the edge of this journey, 9 pages deep into the heart of Stoic living. You've sat with wisdom, walked with courage, held justice close, practiced temperance with grace. But before we close this book, before we end the meditation, one question remains. Why does virtue still matter today? A compass in a spinning world. In an age of distraction, of hot takes and headlines, where attention is currency and outrage sells, virtue doesn't scream. It stands. It isn't a trend. It's a compass. When the world is spinning, you don't have to spin with it. You can choose stillness. You can choose direction. Wisdom is urgent, not outdated. There's more information now than ever before, but how much of it is useful? Wisdom pauses, listens, cuts through the noise with clarity. It means thinking before reacting, pausing before posting, asking what truly matters here. Wisdom is not knowing everything, it's knowing what to ignore. And in today's world, that is power. Courage is strength, not noise. Courage doesn't always wear armor. Sometimes it shows up in soft places, speaking the truth when silence would be easier, admitting fault when pride wants to run, trying again after failure. Courage is quiet, but never weak. It's the refusal to betray yourself. It's standing by your values, even when they cost you something. That kind of strength is rare and deeply needed. Temperance is freedom, not restriction. Temperance isn't saying no to pleasure. It's saying yes to peace. It's the strength to stop scrolling, to stop chasing more, to stop numbing and start noticing. Temperance whispers, you already have enough. You already are enough. And in a culture obsessed with more that's revolutionary, justice is what connects us all. Justice isn't lofty, it's local. It's everyday. It's how you treat the cashier, how you speak to someone who can't benefit you, how you show up when no one is watching. Justice doesn't wait for applause. It builds trust. It builds a life you're proud to live. When you act justly, you become a light in someone else's storm, and that light ripples. Virtue is built, not found. No one is born with unshakable character. It's built, one decision at a time. You choose courage this morning, temperance this afternoon, wisdom tonight. And little by little those choices become you. That's the Stoic promise. Not that life will be easy, but that you'll be ready. You are the practice. You are not here for perfection. You're here to practice, to stumble and stand up wiser, to feel and still lead with clarity, to walk forward even when uncertain. Every moment is another rep, another breath of presence, another chance to return to who you truly are. This isn't philosophy, it's armor for the soul. You've trained your mind, you've tuned your heart. Now carry it into the world. Because this isn't just content. It's character, these virtues. They're your foundation, your defense, your legacy. They remind you daily that your peace doesn't come from the outside. It's forged within, final words from the path. If even one idea from this journey has helped you feel stronger, clearer, steadier, then welcome. You're not just learning Stoicism, you're living it. Carry it with you quietly, consistently. And when the world gets loud again, when things fall apart, when emotions flare, return to this. You are built for this. You are anchored in virtue. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. Closing the chapter, opening the life. Thank you for walking this path with us. If this series brought you even one moment of stillness, a breath of clarity, then stay close. We're just getting started. See you in the next reflection. And until then, stay grounded, stay grateful, stay stoic.